After former U.S. President Barack Obama publicly criticized Ibrahim Traoré for his increasingly authoritarian stance and alleged suppression of dissent in Burkina Faso, the young leader responded with a bold and calculated mix of defiance and strategic messaging. Rather than retreating or offering a conciliatory statement, Traoré addressed the criticism head-on in a nationally televised address, portraying Obama's remarks as part of a broader pattern of Western interference in African sovereignty. He framed the criticism as an attack not on him personally, but on the independence and dignity of the Burkinabe people. In his speech, Traoré emphasized that African nations no longer needed approval or validation from Western powers to define their future, asserting that the continent was undergoing a new era of self-determination. Immediately following this public response, Traoré took deliberate actions to consolidate his political image domestically. He held a series of high-profile meetings with military leaders, community elders, and youth organizations, reinforcing his image as a leader in control and supported by a strong grassroots base. He also accelerated initiatives aimed at reducing Western influence in national affairs, including the announcement of a new policy to review and potentially suspend military cooperation agreements with foreign countries. This move was widely covered in local media, which painted Traoré as a bold, unyielding patriot standing against neo-colonialism. Simultaneously, Traoré strengthened his alliances with other West African nations facing similar tensions with Western powers. He initiated a diplomatic outreach to Mali and Niger, emphasizing regional solidarity against what he called external pressures masked as democratic concern. These moves were symbolic as well as strategic, signaling a shift toward a new bloc of African leadership more resistant to Western narratives. His government also launched a campaign on social media platforms, highlighting African resilience and rejecting foreign tutelage, using carefully crafted videos and statements that went viral among his supporters. In the weeks following Obama's remarks, Traoré's popularity among nationalist circles surged. While opposition voices and human rights advocates continued to raise concerns about civil liberties and the militarization of the state, Traoré remained unmoved. His administration dismissed these concerns as part of the same foreign-backed agenda Obama represented. Rather than softening his tone, Traoré leaned further into anti-Western rhetoric, knowing it resonated deeply with a population tired of perceived foreign exploitation and hypocrisy. By turning Obama's criticism into a rallying point, Ibrahim Traoré not only deflected attention from the underlying issues, but skillfully transformed a potentially damaging moment into a platform for asserting power, sovereignty, and African pride. His actions reflected both political calculation and a growing confidence that global opinion mattered less than domestic support and regional alignment. After Barack Obama criticized Ibrahim Traoré, accusing him of drifting toward authoritarianism and undermining democratic institutions in Burkina Faso, Traoré responded not with retreat, but with a carefully orchestrated and multi-layered counteroffensive that blended populism, nationalism, and strategic diplomacy. His first reaction came within 24 hours during a nationally broadcast address, where he rejected Obama's statements as echoes of a colonial mindset dressed in diplomatic language. Standing against a backdrop of military officers and national flags, Traoré accused the former U.S. president of selectively caring about African democracy while turning a blind eye to decades of foreign exploitation and imposed instability. He emphasized that Burkina Faso would never allow foreign figures, however prestigious, to dictate the path of its political evolution. His words were carefully chosen to resonate with a public already skeptical of Western intentions, and his tone was calm yet firm, signaling resolve rather than rage. Beyond rhetoric, Traoré took immediate and visible steps to reinforce his position. He called an emergency session with his National Security Council and gave televised footage of the meeting to national broadcasters, portraying himself as a proactive and vigilant leader. In the same week, he launched a nationwide tour, visiting rural provinces, military bases, and student unions where he was met with chants and displays of support. These visits weren't mere photo opportunities. They were choreographed moments of unity, aimed at visually disconnecting his leadership from elite urban politics and embedding him within the grassroots narrative of a people's revolution. At several stops, he delivered fiery speeches condemning external puppeteers and warning that Burkina Faso's struggle was not just political, but existential. "We are not children needing supervision," he declared to a crowd in Koudougou. "We are the sons and daughters of Sankara, ready to determine our destiny." In the days that followed, Traoré ordered a full review of all bilateral agreements signed with Western powers, especially those related to military presence, mining concessions, and intelligence sharing. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, under his direction, began quietly reaching out to partners in Russia, Turkey, and the Sahel region to explore alternatives to Western military aid. His administration also tightened controls on international NGOs and media outlets, accusing some of acting as extensions of foreign governments. This crackdown drew criticism from international watchdogs, but domestically, it was framed as a cleansing of neo-colonial influence. Social media accounts aligned with the state began circulating videos, infographics, and emotional testimonials highlighting African struggles for dignity and independence, often juxtaposing images of Western leaders with scenes of African suffering. Parallel to these maneuvers, Traoré opened dialogue with neighboring military-led governments in Mali, Niger, and Guinea, initiating what some regional analysts dubbed the anti-Western alliance of the Sahel. In a highly publicized joint communiqué, the countries denounced what they described as external meddling disguised as democratic concern, and pledged to support one another in resisting foreign political pressure. This alliance, although loose and largely symbolic, served a powerful political function. It recast Traoré not as an isolated rogue leader, but as part of a larger continental movement towards sovereignty and self-reliance. Traoré also took advantage of the moment to launch internal reforms, mostly symbolic but emotionally charged. Statues of past African revolutionaries were erected in major cities. School curricula were updated to include modules on anti-colonial resistance and African unity. Even the national anthem was temporarily replaced in certain military events, with traditional war chants, underlining a return to indigenous pride. These moves solidified his grip over public perception and deepened his portrayal as a leader restoring African dignity. Meanwhile, international reactions remained mixed. While the African Union issued a cautious statement calling for balance between sovereignty and democratic accountability, many Western governments expressed concern but avoided direct confrontation. Obama did not issue a follow-up, perhaps intentionally avoiding further fueling Traoré's narrative. But in Burkina Faso, the damage, or from Traoré's perspective, the opportunity, had already crystallized. What began as external criticism became a domestic advantage. Traoré transformed the moment into a turning point, embedding his leadership deeper into the national psyche as that of a proud, defiant, and unbending guardian of the nation's sovereignty.